Hi, I'm Charlie Galdona, and this is Winning Attitude for Entrepreneurs. On today's podcast, I have an amazing guest. Soren Kaplan is the voice of innovation and a reference for leading companies of the Silicon Valley and worldwide. He's considered by Thinkers 50 as one of the leading experts in strategic innovation, disruptive technology, and innovation culture. Tedx Speaker, author of Wallstreet Journal Bestseller Leapfrogging and The Invisible Advantage, has empowered big names such as Disney, Kimberly Clark, HP, Redbull, Visa, and many others with a hands-on approach. He's a founder of Innovation Point and upBOARD. He is also well known as a great entrepreneur. Welcome, Soren.
Thanks, Charlie. Good to be with you.
How are you? How are you doing?
Doing great. Just here in San Francisco, kind of slowly getting back to normal, but still hunkered down given the coronavirus.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's challenging times worldwide. So yeah, all my guests that I've been speaking, or they are on a lockdown or some kind of lockdown, and yeah, it's a challenge to manage your business, to whatever you're doing. Even if you're a sports guy, it's also a challenge to train. So yeah, challenging times, but also the pressure boiler for innovation. How does this moment work for the companies you coach, the companies you're involved when they are really under pressure to innovate?
I'm seeing two things. I'm seeing some companies really looking at the challenges we have as opportunities for innovation and ways to mobilize around either helping with the pandemic or just looking at the fact that work is moving virtual, work is changing, and there's opportunities within that to support it. So I'm seeing companies really embracing innovation, and I'm also seeing companies fearful and cutting back. So you have really two camps that are happening. You know, the people who are scared and trying to focus internally, and the people who are focused externally on how do you solve this and innovate at the same time.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's the fear that doesn't let you embrace change. No, the people get really frozen sometimes with this kind of situations, and others really move on and leap towards something new. It's an amazing moment. I talk a lot about the winning attitude here. It's the attitude to really try to get better in whatever you are in, and really try to push your own limits. How does attitude help you embrace change?
I mean, I think attitude is everything. But the question is attitude around what? So in my life and in the entrepreneurs I've seen and in the corporate executives I've seen who really are making a difference, they're making a difference not because they want to make money, not because they want to basically, rise in the ranks. They want to serve people and they want to make a difference. Yeah. So the attitude is, how do I make a difference for other people? And how do I make a difference in the world? And if that's your starting point, then you figure out, well, what are the specific problems I can solve? What are the solutions I can create through innovation to solve those problems? But it's all about that kind of higher order purpose around why you're even trying to innovate in the first place.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I read about you're trying to innovate the Lean canvas, the business model canvas, the way we are business modeling everything. Basically now, if you start with an idea, you bring the canvas and let's do something. I read that, you want to innovate on that. And that's maybe you're always on the curve of innovation, always pushing the limits. Tell me a little bit about that. Why is the canvas not working anymore somehow? And why should we approach it on a new way?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to innovate innovation. I've been doing innovation for 25 years before it was even on the cover of every magazine. So, the reason why I want to do that is because I see teams, individuals, organizations trying to be innovative. And every time someone starts out, they have to recreate the wheel by coming up, finding the tools, reading the books. I wanted to create a platform where instantly you have the best practices for any business process, including innovation. And so it's not about changing the business model canvas as a tool or changing the value proposition canvas. It's about digitizing innovation processes so anyone can instantly hit the ground running, define what they want to do, create a business concept, create a business model, create the financials really fast, create a pitch deck really fast, so that they're not spending months doing it. They've got everything they need and they can do it in days.
Oh, that's amazing. You're doing it with upBOARD, your new company, or is it yourself personally?
Well, great question. I've been doing innovation. I've been coaching startups. I've been working in big companies for 25 years. So over the last 3 years, we've taken everything that I know, plus doing a lot of other research on best practices, and we've put together a company called upBOARD. It's upBOARD.io, and it's a platform. And so we're trying to basically scale the ability to provide, kind of instant consulting to anyone digitally. And so, it's a kind of a freemium service. You sign up and you can, use all these tools.
Oh, really nice. Soren, can you tell me, I don't know, you have thousands of stories because you've been coaching big companies and in your whole life, and you've been always there in innovation when innovation wasn't a buzzword. And I remember I studied the Masters in Business Innovation in Imagineering, and back then you were a guest lecturer. And I remember when we did the study trip to California, to San Francisco and then Vegas also, one of the highlights was a barbecue that you hosted at your place. It was amazing. It was really memorable. And I remember, we talked about, we were obviously with all the flashes of visiting Google and Facebook and all those big names, big companies. But also I remember you were involved with small projects, with more social projects and things that really make an impact. How do you approach the innovation process on a huge company like HP? And what's the difference with a small company that is maybe more the target of the podcast and the people that I'm mentoring, that are small groups of 3-4 co-founders that have an amazing idea and they start to get some traction? What's the main difference?
So, there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. The differences, as you asked, are dealing with a big bureaucratic company and moving a fragile idea through a big bureaucracy. It's hard, but there's also a lot of resources there. So once an idea gets a little traction, you can scale it. So, those are the challenges and benefits within a big company. But, for your audience and anyone who's kind of just starting out, the advantage is you can do whatever you want. You can move fast. You're lean. And there's so many tools out there that are free or freemium or just, instantly available to create a minimal viable product, a prototype, test your ideas, get it out on social media, buy advertising, and just test ideas through advertising. There's so many ways to just get started really simply and fast these days. And, that's the advantage of being an entrepreneur in today's digital age.
Yeah, definitely the agility that you see that, there's a new pivot, for example, they say, let's go this way because it's not working, and you can be testing a minimum viable product in 1 week and things like that. And in a huge corporation, then maybe you need to go through the whole process, and it's a different game.
Well, I have an example for you. So, they're in big companies, they're now creating chief innovation officers and innovation departments. And it's because they don't know how to do innovation, or it's difficult. Well, I was at Netflix a number of years ago, and I was talking to their chief financial officer. And I said, how does innovation work at Netflix? And he was really confused by my question. Because he's like, well, what do you mean? Like we are innovation. Like everything we do is like a disruptive innovation. Yeah. And so it was just such a disconnect. And this was probably 10 years ago at Netflix. So, they were the disruptor. Their whole organization was the disruptor. So forget innovation. Just create something that has impact in the world, impact for those you're trying to serve. You are the innovation that's going to threaten those big companies. And that's good. That's what you want to be doing as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, definitely. Well, another thing that connects to this, that you were talking about the teams, and I read about your high performance teams approach. It's a model, it's the OGSM. Maybe you can talk a little bit about it, because it's one of the things that I'm trying to do is to really empower entrepreneurs with their own high performance, maybe on an individual level, but the whole team. It's when you achieve high performance as a team, then you're unbeatable. It's amazing. So you can talk a little bit about that model.
Yeah, the number one criteria that venture capitalists look at when funding a company isn't the idea, it's the team.
Yeah.
So super important. What you just said is spot on. It's also interesting you said OGSM. On our website, upBOARD, we're getting thousands and thousands of visitors a month because we've really done a good job at optimizing our website. OGSM is one of our top pages because people realize that OGSM basically stands for objectives. So what are you trying to achieve? Strategies. Your goals. Your goals in terms of kind of what you're trying to, do in order to get to achieve your objectives, and your strategies are really the tactics.
You can explain a little bit about those goals, because sometimes we think about a vision, something longer, something bigger, and then that it's, I remember those big, hairy, audacious goals that we had back then. And so really long term. But what I read about your strategy is that it's more chunked into small parts.
Yeah, you want to have them really measurable. And so, your objectives are higher level. So those can be more strategic in terms of kind of more visionary.
Yeah.
But the goals, the second step is, how do we quantify? Usually you want to focus in on a quarter, a half a year, maybe a year. And how do you quantify what it means to achieve that objective? And then the strategies are additional tactics, which you should ideally quantify and figure out how you're going to measure those to hit your goals. So it's like this cascading model. And so, there's always the measures also, because the GSM, the last one is measures, but I like to quantify everything as you move through that path.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really, really interesting, and definitely something to explore and to try to see if it's applicable for your company. Well, I read also about, on your first book, we were somehow connected, because I remember I had my production company, and we did the book trailer. It was something new back then. And it was a really nice experience that we had. But I also read something that came out when I was trying to find a little bit more about you and what you've done in the last years, that you made your own investment in your book. That was like trying to hack the system to make your book appear on the Wallstreet Journal and the charts and things like that. So how was that? Where did the idea come from? And
that's an entire podcast in terms of the story. But basically, when I didn't know anything about book marketing, and I'm a pretty good marketer, so I learned everything about book marketing pretty fast. And one of the approaches that people were using back then was to do pre-sales of books. And if you did enough pre-sales before the book came out, that all those pre-sales would be counted in the first week, and you could hit the Wallstreet Journal or even New York Times bestseller list. So I went through a process to do that. And it was interesting because it worked. But I actually got a call from a Wall Street Journal reporter following that. And he wanted to understand why my book was a Wallstreet Journal bestseller on week 1, but not on week 2 or beyond.
Yeah.
And so it was a little stressful actually. And it was an amazing experience of trying to just be truthful about here's what I did, and not be ashamed by it, but also recognize that that's a broken system that will allow that to happen. And so I wrote articles about it. I actually just got interviewed for a Netflix documentary about it. So I'll be telling even more details about how that worked.
Yeah, because it's a broken system somehow. If you have the power, financial power to buy tons of your own publishing, it will appear there on the there's no real relation between quality or whatever it is that you want to measure on a book or on the chart. That it's mainly a marketing thing.
It's 100% marketing, and now there are legitimate bestsellers, but it is also a marketing strategy. Now, what's interesting is I pretty much am the only author to ever talk about it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Even now,
it's a taboo.
No one will talk about it. And I've talked to some authors who are really famous who have done it, and they will not talk about it. And I know
but it talks about the way you are also, Soren, the humbleness you've always had. I always remember the chats we had through the process of the trailer of the book trailer, but I remember the way you received us with the barbecue at your place, and we were a bunch of students of a master's in the Netherlands. So, and you're still teaching all around the world to masters like this one, trying to bring your knowledge and
Charlie, thank you for that. And for your podcast listeners here, it's just about being human. It's about recognizing you don't have all the answers. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to try your hardest, and it's not going to work out, and you have to learn from it. And if you're open about it, no one really gives it.
Darn.
Like they want to learn from you, and it's a collaborative world. And how do you just come together and create something cool and that adds value, and you're all learning together all the time. So if you take that kind of more humility focused attitude, you create networks of people who are like you. You don't want to be working with the jerks anyway.
It's also about being truth and trying not to be a hypocrite. Try to practice what you preach somehow, and you smell it also. It's something that you smell with. You can fall sometimes on the trap, but you will smell it with people that are trying to sell something that they don't really believe. Well, just to wrap it up, Soren, because we could chat for hours, but the idea is to keep it as short as possible. Which suggestions would you like to give talking to the entrepreneurs that are struggling maybe on this situation, on this, trying to navigate this storm of the coronavirus, and they are really struggling maybe financially, but also on the process of innovation and that they were in, trying to understand how they will try to adapt whatever they need to do to make their business survive. But sometimes they don't have maybe the resources to make it happen as we would like to. So what's your message for those people that are really willing to get to the next level?
Those are a lot of big questions, Charlie, but I'll do my best here. I think first and foremost, none of us are truly alone. We have partners, collaborators, partners, networks. Draw on those to figure out how to come up with ideas, test your ideas, and get support when the times are tough. We all have tough times. Some of us admit it and some of us don't. But the reality is that, draw upon your network when none of us are alone. That is really a fundamental key. The second is to figure out what you care about. So if you want to just be an entrepreneur because you want to be a famous entrepreneur, that's not adding value to the world directly. Like what problems do you want to solve? What is your purpose for innovating in the first place. So that really is an important one, and that'll draw people to you as well. That's your network. Those are the people who care about the same things. So those are really two starting points. Then there's also the resources piece. Well, you can do a lot of things by designing, using PowerPoint to design, using Google Docs, using various social networks to just get your ideas out there to even validate it if it's a good one.
Test. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Tools out there too that are free.
Yeah. I thank you very much coming from you, Soren, because that is what I'm telling. Try to grab what's around you. Try to find the positive. Yeah, start with a strong attitude, but also you don't really need a lot of resources. And well, if things are really going wrong, sometimes, you need to build on your resilience. Oxygen tank, because maybe things will go wrong and you will need to start again, but it's like that.
Absolutely.
I really thank you, Soren, for the chat, and I really hope to see you on one of, hopefully when you can travel to on one trip around here or back there in Walnut Creek. And thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Charlie. Look, I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thanks. This was Winning Attitude for Entrepreneurs.